Hello and welcome to Lane 9. I am your host, Ben Weisel, and today I am joined by Steeplechase star from Notre Dame, Olivia Markezich. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. You've just had, I feel like, a whirlwind last couple of weeks between NCAA's and then running at USA's. Have you been able to settle in and be back home and kind of relax a little bit after all that?
Yeah, it's definitely been exciting, but I'm glad to be home now. I've missed Seattle. I love Seattle summers. It's the best time of the year here. So I've just been chilling and relaxing the last week and a half. And I only get like 4 weeks until I have to go back to school. So it's a pretty short summer, but it's nice to be home.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, has it kind of sunk in those performances a little bit more? Like, I mean, you were running back-to-back PRs, you won an NCAA title, you were fourth at USA's. Has that kind of sunk in as you've had a little more time away from that?
Yeah, I feel like once you run it, it's like, okay, yeah, that's a fast time. And then 2 days later, it always hits me and it's like, wow, I actually did that. That's crazy. Yeah, so
That's
it
awesome.
definitely hit me a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, running sub 930 is obviously a huge achievement, and then you one up that with a sub 920 or 917. I mean, an incredible few weeks. So let's rewind and we can go start with your run at NCAA's. So what was your plan going into that race? I know Greta had obviously run those really fast times coming in and had a much faster PR than a lot of people, but listening to other interviews, it sounded like you were pretty confident that you could run sub 930. So what was kind of your game plan going into that?
Yeah, so my game plan was to kind of just stick my nose in it, be in the front, and just try to stick on Greta and then outkick her. I knew that my kick is probably one of my strengths, and Greta tends to run really even splits, which is
Hmm.
great. When I can just sit behind her and then try to outkick her. So that was just kind of my plan, and it ended up working out kind of exactly how I wanted it to, which was really nice.
And,
Yeah.
and I know you had mentioned that you sometimes can struggle with maybe that third quarter of the race. How did you stay focused, even as there was a little bit of a gap opening up between the two of you to put yourself with an opportunity to use your kick there at the end?
Yeah, that's something that I've struggled with a lot. So I think it just takes a lot of time and
Hmm.
practice trying not to let those front runners get ahead of you. And she even built up a gap at NCAA's, and I just had to continue like keeping my mental confidence, keeping my mental strength, and just telling myself like, okay, hang in there, hold on, like you'll catch up, you'll get her. Just don't let her continue to build the gap. Um, and so I think it's easy in a lot of races when they start to get away to get discouraged and then to fall
Hmm.
back. So it really takes a lot of mental strength to just hang in there and try to close the gap a little bit every lap.
Absolutely. I mean, I during my running career, very different kind of career than yours. I struggled with the same thing. I think that was the thing that my coaches got onto me is just don't get discouraged. Don't like have that mental lapse in the middle of the race because if you have a great kick, you just have to be close enough. You don't even have to be like as you proved, you don't have to be right on their shoulder in the last
Yeah.
lap. You just have to be within striking distance. And so that's what I found so impressive with your race is that you didn't let that gap become so big that you weren't able to close it. And then when you went by, I mean, that was such a strong move. And then your water jump there at the end was awesome. Is that something that you really work on and practice, really nailing that last water jump?
Yeah, definitely. We don't do a lot of water jump practice just on the pits,
Hmm.
just because it's, higher risk of injury. So we'll do like even at the beginning of the season, I we started doing some water jump practice into the grass, just like on the barrier,
Right.
jumping into the
Hmm.
grass. And I like jammed my ankle really badly. And so I actually had to take like, I don't know, I think it was like 6 weeks off of doing any type of hurdling drills. And then I ended up not racing Wake Forest, which is supposed to be my
Hmm.
steeple opener. And so I was kind of nervous going into ACCs, like doing my first steeple of the season at a conference championship. Because I also like my ankle took a while to feel better. But so for the end of the season, yeah, we started to do more water jump practice, and we would practice going maybe like 50 meters to 75 meters from the water jump and like jogging, running into it, and then really
Mhm.
clearing the curve and really like pushing off of the water and making sure you're getting a strong push off of it. So that's something that I've really worked on a lot at the end of the season.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great point. I hadn't really thought about the injury risk aspect of practicing like that. But yeah, I can only imagine the brunt that your legs and your ankles and everything is taking every time you're landing. So that makes sense. When do you guys usually start doing the hurdle practice? Is it during? Are you still working on that during the indoor season a little bit, right after cross country?
So for the past few seasons, we've haven't done any hurdle stuff during indoors. We always
Okay.
started like the week after indoor NCAA's. Um, and so it's always exciting once I do indoor NCAA's. I'm like, yay, it's steeple season. I can finally like do steeple drills. But then I had to put a pause on it for a little bit longer to help out my ankle. But yeah, so I think this year though, we might try to incorporate them a little bit more earlier in the season just because my form isn't the most impeccable form. So I probably do need a little bit more steeple drills to help out my form. So we might try to incorporate those more throughout indoor season.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I practiced next to some great steeplechasers, and yeah, I feel like they always had a critique about their form. No, I feel like everybody's wanting to get better and better. One other steeplechase specific question. So at Texas for NCAA's, they had the outside water jump, and compared to where there usually is an indoor or inside water jump, do you have a preference for one over the other in terms of track setup?
I think I'm just more used to inside of the water,
Mhm.
inside of the track water pits, just because that's pretty much every track we've run on besides NCAA's this year and then regionals last year for me had an outside of the track water pit. So I'm more used to it, but NCAA's was nice because I had those longer straightaways and I could really like pick up speed in between the barriers. So that was a little nice, but it is weird, especially at Austin. You're so close to that concrete wall and it's like not very a tall, it's not a very tall wall and you're kind of like high up and there's kind of a big drop on the other side of the wall. So it's just like a weird feeling running all the way out there. Um, but yeah, so probably the inside of the track pits.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I've heard most, where the inside is a lot better. Is it hard getting splits too from the outside water jump? Like knowing like, or I mean, is that something you're even really listening to during at NCAA's or anything?
I can't even look at a clock. I can't do that mental math during a race. I usually just try to listen for my coach or my dad usually is yelling something like, oh, like you're doing great or something. I listen to their cues to kind of tell me if I need to go faster or not. But yeah, I don't even try to look at splits.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I can imagine that is difficult. I mean, I'm having a hard time figuring out what pace you're on just watching. So I can only imagine what you're thinking in the middle of the race.
Yeah.
So let's talk about USA's where you were fourth. What were your kind of expectations for that race coming off of your win at NCAA's?
Yeah, so I kind of went in with two main goals of just being top six because top six got a medal and I thought that'd be really cool. And possibly trying to PR because I knew it would be a fast race, a lot of good competition. I was like, yeah, I could probably PR, which would be really sick. So I'm happy that I accomplished both of those goals. Fourth place was definitely exceeding my expectations. I knew I had a possibility of being up there because, I mean, my time was like fifth place going into the race
Mhm.
for this year. And so fourth place is just more than I would have expected, which is super exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, you were right in the mix of the race for the majority of the time. I mean, obviously, Chrissy had that great kick to kind of leave your pack and take the lead. But I mean, you were right in the mix of it, which I was super impressed by. What was your kind of race plan going in? Were you planning on sitting with anybody, hitting certain times, or were you just kind of going to go with the flow?
I was just going to go out there and try to race as best as I could, just
Hmm.
be up front, stay out of trouble in the back of the pack. Like it's kind of hard in steeple. You kind of get jostled around if you're not seeing the barriers clearly and kind of in the front. So I just wanted to get out fast, compete, and then see what I could do. Um, I definitely did not expect to like take the race out and be in the very front of the final. Like that was kind of weird. I was like, this isn't where I should be. Like Emma needs to go in front of me. But Emma and Courtney did quickly enough, which was good. But yeah, so I just wanted to try to stick on them and see what I could do. And I definitely ran a faster time than I thought I would. So that was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. After the race, did the thought of going pro creep into your mind at all? I mean, obviously you're one spot out of Worlds, and I mean you run 9:17. You have that NCAA title. Is that something that kind of at least was in the back of your mind a little bit more?
Yeah, I kind of, this year I started thinking about it more. I never
Mhm.
thought going pro would be a possibility until this year. And now after getting fourth place at USA's, it's definitely becoming a little clearer that that could be like a very real possibility. So I always planned of still applying to normal jobs in the fall.
Mhm.
But now my dad and I were just having a conversation about like if I even need to do that or if I should just plan on going pro at this point. So we'll see. I think I might just do that, which would be really exciting.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you obviously still have a year left at Notre Dame, so yeah, obviously that you got plenty of time to think about that. But I think it's certainly in your future, the way you've raced over the last few weeks and over the last year, really. So let's rewind a little bit and go to when you were looking at schools coming out of high school. What drew you to Notre Dame initially?
So my dad did go to Notre Dame, which
Mhm.
is kind of the easy answer. I know there's a lot of like Notre Dame families where all their parents went to Notre Dame and then the kid goes to Notre Dame. So that's the easy answer. But um, really, I looked at so many other schools too, and my dad didn't want to push me to Notre Dame at
Mhm.
all. He actually gave me a really long list of other schools to consider, and he wanted my college to be my decision. And so after talking to some of the other teams and programs and taking tours on a bunch of other college campuses, I I went to a Notre Dame football game my junior year, and my dad, some of his college teammates then had daughters on the team, which is really cool. So I got to run with them and get to know them a little bit. And so I kind of knew what the team was like. I knew the culture, and I really liked the Notre Dame community is super unique and special. And I liked how it had really good academics and really good athletics. And so I actually didn't even take my official visit to Notre Dame until January of my senior year. But after I took all my other official visits in the fall of my senior year, I decided that none of them really measured up to Notre Dame. And I ended up verbally committing before I took my official visit. And then my dad told me I should take my official visit in January so I could see what the winters are like. Because if I really wanted to go to Notre Dame, he wanted me to know what I was getting in for. So um, it ended up not deterring me away, even though I went like the week before Notre Dame had the polar vortex where it got like, it was like negative 35, negative 40 degrees or something. So it was pretty bad, but I still ended up deciding to go. And it honestly, like I was most scared for the winters, but it hasn't been as bad as I thought it has would be. The winters honestly have been like pretty mild the past couple of years, so that was nice. Yeah.
I totally get the concern of the weather. My wife, but then girlfriend, I was visiting her in South Bend. She went to St. Mary's, and like
Oh no.
whenever I would go in the winter, I was just like, "Ah, I don't think I can do this. I'm from Nashville, and it was brutal. So I commend you for sticking it out. I know you had mentioned in another interview that you and your sister wanted to go your separate ways after high school.
Yeah.
And now that she's going to be coming to Notre Dame, what's that going to be like for you guys kind of reconnecting for your final year?
Yeah, we're so excited. We could not be happier to be teammates again. I think it was good that we had 4 years of being able to grow into our own people and kind of not be known as like the twins anymore because that was always hard for us in high school.
Hmm.
But we're definitely excited to be teammates again. But we are living together. We're doing the same grad program and we're running together. So it's going to feel like high school again. But she did dye her hair blonde. So hopefully we don't get mixed up anymore. But we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great that you guys had that opportunity to kind of be your own person a little bit more, and now you get the opportunity to come back together. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So when you get to Notre Dame and you're first starting to race, we always like to ask all our guests, what was your like welcome to the NCAA moment? If it was like a particular race or anything where you're like, oh, this is a big step up in competition.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The first thing that pops into my mind was we host the Joe Piani Invitational every year at Notre
Mhm.
Dame. And that was my first race in uniform my freshman year because the first couple of races I ran unattached. But that was the first time where I was like, wow, college athletics is so different than high school. Because it was like, I don't know, there were probably a few hundred, couple hundred people in the race. And it's not a very wide course. Like once you get 800 meters in, there's a turn and it's kind of like pretty narrow along a fence. And I just remember running along that fence like in the middle of this massive pack and people like their legs are kicking me every single step and I'm like wow, I'm shocked I'm not getting spiked, like their legs are just constantly brushing against mine. And that was something I never experienced, so that was the first major difference of college athletics. And it was definitely an eye-opener to how competitive the NCAA is.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I raced there once, and I think one of my teammates got like stabbed almost with one of the like flags or something, like or got
Oh,
kicked
no.
up by a spike or something. Like it is so for a race that big, the course is gets narrow very quickly, and yeah, I mean it is a brutal way to start. You have to get out fast, or else you're going to be out the back very easily. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally get that. So let's fast forward a little bit to this past cross country season. Obviously, you've had great success on the grass over the last few years. You were 11th last year, 8th this past year at NCAA's. What was kind of the team goal going into last fall? I mean, you obviously brought in some strong talent. Katie Thronson, someone that kind of comes to mind. We really liked that pickup for you all, and she was a great member of the team. What was kind of the goal going into this past fall?
So this past fall, we always have a team meeting at the beginning of the season and kind of talk about our goals and like ways we can work towards that goal. We always have like process goals and then outcome goals. So process goals are what you can do to reach your outcome goals.
Hmm.
And we make this giant poster and we hung it up in our locker room. And so our outcome goal was to get fifth at NCAA's because that's what we got the year before. And we knew with like Katie Thronson coming in and Shona Chisholm, we knew that we had some really good talent and we knew we could even improve and possibly podium and get top four. So as the season went on, like right before NCAA's, like in the rankings, we were kind of ranked to be top four at one point, I think. And
Hmm.
we were like, oh my gosh, this could actually happen. So that was exciting. And unfortunately, we didn't deliver on the day. Not everybody was able to do what they were capable of on the day, which is okay. It was still a season to celebrate and a season of so much growth. And we had a lot of fun as a team. And so seventh place also is not bad it's a not bad place to be. So we were still happy with it. But yeah, so going into this upcoming season, I don't know, we'll see. We're super excited with having Andrea join us. And then we also
Hmm.
have like Erica Vanderlyn, which is going to be
Yeah.
exciting. So we're not quite sure where we could be as a team, but um, hopefully it's kind of around top 10. Like that's where we always want to be, a little higher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to last year, I mean, that performance at ACC's, I think, was one of the greatest performances from a team that we had seen all year. I mean, I don't think many people pegged you all to be able to beat NC State, and you were right there. I mean, there was obviously breakout races from, you mentioned Sienna Chisholm. She was amazing, and Katie was great in that race as well. I mean, did that kind of show you guys that what you're really capable of if you put it all together and give you a lot of confidence? I mean, like you said, it didn't maybe come together perfectly at NCAA's, but for this year, I mean, I got to imagine that's something you all will point to a lot.
Yeah, definitely. We never would have thought going into that race that we would be 4 points behind NC State. Like that that was kind of insane for us after the race to see that. So it really just showed that like we're better than we think we are, and it gave us a lot of confidence, which is good. And I think especially for people like Shona, like she ran great, and that was her first year in the NCAA. Like she came from Canada, and the
Hmm.
Canada league is so different from the NCAA. So I think it should have given her a lot of confidence too. I think it did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. For you individually, last cross country season and going into nationals, what was kind of your game plan? Obviously, hard course at Oklahoma State. You knew that Parker Valby, Caitlin Tui, probably at least one of them going to be pushing the pace early. So you knew it was going to be an honest effort. What was your kind of mindset going into that race?
Yeah. So I was actually way more nervous than I should have been going into that race. And that was something that I've struggled with the past couple years that I think I was able to really get under control this year. But I was so nervous. And the year before I got 11th. So I was
Mhm.
just thinking, okay, I just want to improve upon 11th. So I told myself top 10 and I'll be happy. And I was like freaking out and I was so nervous. So I set my phone screen to say top 10. Like I had a screenshot of the notes app and it just said top
Mhm.
10 on my phone screen. And just looking down at that, like the 2 days before the race helped me like calm my nerves and just realize like, okay, just the simple goal, like just go out there, be in the front, hang on, try to be with the main pack. Like you can do it. So I think that helped really calm my nerves and just kind of center my focus on that number.
So you mentioned that you've improved in terms of handling your nerves. What have you done to be able to kind of center yourself a little better before races this year?
I mean, it's just learning how to have confidence in yourself. And it's kind of hard. I think it just takes experience and
Hmm.
racing and just realizing like after a race, like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like I could have done better. And you kind of realize at one point, or at least I realized that being nervous before a race was just so unnecessary. Like, you know where your fitness is, you know what you're capable of in workouts, and you know how those workouts can translate to a race performance. And so, just being confident in your workouts and just thinking, like, yeah, I ran this last year, I was doing this, I'm improving significantly, then that means I can place this. And it's just like kind of thinking about it factually, like, yeah, I know it can be this place, and let's just go out there and see what I can do. And so that really helped me.
Yeah, that's extremely rational. I wish that I had that same kind of I don't know, like factually based mentality. I think that's a great thing for a lot of athletes to be able to look at is be able to, hey, this is what my training's improved, and go from there. So you obviously have had great cross country seasons. You're coming off of a fantastic indoor and outdoor track here. Do you have a preference? Do you like running on the grass more, or you prefer the track?
I feel like all throughout college, it kind of changed with which season I was kind of doing the best in. I feel like once you do well, it's like, oh yeah, I really like indoor track or I really like
Yeah.
steeplechase. But honestly, like cross country has always had a special place in my heart. And I just love the team aspect and racing as a team together and huddling on the start line together. And my team always says the Irish blessing. It's just like a fun little
Yeah.
Notre Dame thing. So that's always so many special memories in cross country. And so I think that's my favorite.
The team aspect of cross country was always my favorite. I was never very good in cross, but I was more of a middle distance guy. But I don't know. There is something unique about running every race with all your other teammates rather than being all split up and
Yeah.
separated on the track and having that common goal to work towards. I think it's just it makes I think the fall so much more exciting and enjoyable to be a
Yeah.
part of. So
And it's
I
just
totally get that.
fun. Yeah. And it's just so fun, like waiting at the finish line, waiting to hug all your teammates.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more special than, I mean, you might have like one or two teammates in a track race. But it's always fun just having that big group hug after a race.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of had that at ACC's this past outdoor season in the steeplechase when you all went one, two, three. I mean, I'm sure that was a kind of a similar experience.
Yeah, definitely. That was so special. That was a ton of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. So this last indoor season, I mean, you were fantastic, set PRs. I think you ran 4:34 in the mile, 8:50 in the 3K, and then you come out in the outdoor season around 15:33 in the 5K. Do you have a favorite flat track event? I mean, would you ever think about moving to I mean, not ever moving away from the steeplechase, but having like a secondary focus in a particular event?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like kind of my main flat race event has been the 3K, just
Hmm.
because, I mean, it's hard to do the DMR and mile double for indoors.
Yeah.
So I kind of focus more on the 3K. I feel like I raced a lot of 3Ks between, indoor and then 3K steeplechase. Um, and then I only did one 5K, which I would love to do more 5Ks, but my first 5K experience, I was like, dang, this is actually like really hard. This is really long. Like, when is it over? But yeah, I'd probably say that the 3K is my favorite just because of familiarity, and I kind of know how to race that now. And then the mile just feels like kind of a sprint compared to the 5K, and you just kind of have to like go and power through the whole thing, which is also kind of difficult. You have to learn how to race that one in
Yeah.
itself too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so at indoor nationals, you were on the DMR, you were anchoring in that 1600-meter leg. Walk me through that race. And I mean, you all finished third in that race, right? And it was kind of crazy. Like Lauren Gregory kind of coming out of nowhere, Stanford having a big lead for a while. Walk me through kind of the experience of watching and then participating in that race.
Yeah, it's always kind of scary watching the legs before you. I usually kind of have to turn away and just, take some deep breaths and not really
Hmm.
watch kind of the action happening in front of me. So I think I got the baton when I was in seventh place, and
Hmm.
I knew I maybe apart from like Lauren Gregory, I had like one of the better mile times. So I just had to be patient and just really kind of slowly work my way up and try to pass as many people as I could. And so I think I kind of like, I mean, I was grinding the whole time, but I kind of left it for the last lap or two. And then I just tried to utilize my kick and catch as many as I could. And I barely caught, like, I think UCLA was fourth. And so I barely caught her at the end. But yeah, that was, yeah, pretty incredible race just to kind of see what my kick was capable of.
Yeah, yeah, I think that certainly should give you a lot of confidence in running the mile or in the 1500 in the future. I mean, it was a really awesome run at altitude too. Really, really impressive run there. And then you back that up a few days later with the second place finish in the 3K,
Mhm.
right behind Caitlin Tui. What was that experience like? What was kind of your mindset going into that race?
Yeah, that one was also kind of a shocking outcome. I did not know how I'd be able to double back after the DMR
Hmm.
because, I mean, after the DMR, yeah, that was my first time racing at altitude. So like when I finished, I was seeing stars. I was like kind of like whoa. I thought I was about to pass out. But I just focused on recovery the next I don't know however many hours until the next race, but I went into that race just kind of with the mindset of what do I have to lose? Just
Hmm.
go out there, stick my nose in it, and just hang on and grind. And I ended up taking it out and being in the lead, which is not very comfortable for me, but it actually I think worked out well because
Hmm.
I was able to keep the pace kind of slower and keep it comfortable for me. And then once everyone started taking it, I was like, okay, shoot, now I actually have to like try to catch up with them and grind. And yeah, I think I ended up, I was like fifth place when everybody started passing me, or maybe sixth place. And then I was like, okay, I just have to do that kick again and then we'll be good. And so, yeah, I was super happy with second place. That was definitely higher than I thought I would be.
Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome performance, and yeah, I think you had one of the best weekends of anybody. I mean, obviously having that anchor leg in the DMR and then coming back and finishing second in the 3K. And I'm sure that was a nice confidence boost going into the outdoor season and preparing for the steeplechase. Did that kind of readjust maybe your expectations for this spring?
Yeah, definitely. Um, some coaches say like for a steeple time compared to flat 3K time, you add like 35 seconds.
Hmm.
And so My 3K PR definitely gave me a lot of confidence for what I could do in the steeplechase. I knew I could PR. So it definitely gave me confidence going into the season.
That's great. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit before, but what are your kind of hopes for this coming fall and individually and as a team? Like you said, you're bringing in some great transfers. I think it's going to be a really good team. The top of the NCAA is kind of in flux. It feels like with New Mexico women all going everywhere and. They're not really going to be a title contender. Florida's kind of coming along with all their new additions. But I think you guys are right in the mix there to be podium contenders. What are you all looking forward to this fall?
Yeah, I feel like so much is changing in the NCAA with all these teams. It's kind of crazy and it's
Hmm.
hard to kind of predict where teams are going to be. So I know we always just try to, it's hard. I mean, you can only control what you can do. You can't control how other teams do. So I think it's just going to be a lot of seeing how things shake out for the first half of the season, seeing where people are. Um, but we always, try to be kind of one of the best teams in the country, and hopefully we are able to do that. And I mean, we have a lot of new people coming in, so I think it's first
Hmm.
just building that team camaraderie and like learning how to race together and have fun, and that's what we're first focusing on. And then we'll just see what we can do as a team, see what place we can be.
Absolutely. And individually for you, are you have any goals? I know this is obviously early on for the upcoming year in general that you kind of want to see yourself hit.
Yeah. I just always want to, PR every season, try to
Hmm.
be better than I was the previous season. So that's kind of just where my head's at right now. Like I said, I can only control what I can control, and you never know how other people are going to do. So I'm not really thinking of like a certain place that I want to be, and we'll just have to see. And I'll just, try to be up towards the front, be competitive, and see how things go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that is a wise thing to say. You obviously can't control what others are doing, and I think that takes a lot of pressure off yourself when you're just focused on yourself. So,
Mm.
um, though this has been a great chat. I really appreciate you coming along. I'm super excited to see what you and the rest of the team do this fall. I think, like you said, there's so much change happening right now in the NCAA, so it'll be fascinating to see where all the pieces land by the end of November. But appreciate you taking the time. Any parting thoughts before we leave?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we will talk to you all next time. Thank you.
sounds good. Thank you.